Welcome to Engineer Muscle podcast number 19, guys. Today we have a very special guest all the way from London, UK. Lauren Tickner.
Hey.
Lauren, most of you have probably seen her stuff on Instagram. She's popping over there. She posts a lot of good stuff. She comes from a fitness background. Right now she coaches fitness coaches on how to create profitable businesses. She has a podcast called Impact School, right?
Yes. I actually have two. I have another one called Business Meets Fitness as well, which was my main one when I was in the fitness industry. But now it's pivoted like me. So
there we go. But she has a podcast that was in the top 10 the day that she launched. She's a rock star. I'm so excited to have her on, and we're going to dive right in. So Lauren, how's your day going today?
yeah, it's going good. I mean, the times have just changed here in England. So feeling very summery and getting into the summer vibes, which is nice, having been fully rained down, as you can probably imagine if you've visited England in the past. But yeah, I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
It's the spring here. It's nice.
Yeah, Madison is also kind of sick, so his voice will be coming in and out. But
yeah, I just got over the week flu. It was terrible. So apologize to all our listeners for my hoarseness.
But yeah, Lauren, I was just telling you, Tony Robbins' event was a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And I literally got sick after that event for a week. And apparently, so this is something I didn't know. So it's called like UPW sickness because Tony Robbins is a master of taking you to a place of high energy and not sleeping very much. So we were all like 4 days in a row and we're all just like dancing and doing all of that thing. And we all got sick. And I'm getting better. But hey, tell a little bit about your podcast. How's that going now? Because I know you actually got it to top 10 and you have some amazing guests on there. So let's start with the podcast.
Yeah, no, the podcast is going great. So the one which you're referring to is the Impact School podcast. So I've had people on there like Ed Milet, Elena Cardone, who's Grant Cardone's wife. I'm getting on Christian Guzman. I've had Rob Lipset. Who else would you guys probably know? Heidi Summers, who's Buff Bunny. Tons of these people in the fitness industry that listeners have probably heard of. And it's cool. It's been going amazingly. And then I love doing it. I find it really, really fun. So it actually started out with a different name. So because I was saying the old name in the intro of all of the podcasts, I decided to take them all down, upload all of them again, all the good ones, the ones that I felt delivered the most value. And basically at the end of every interview, what I now do is I basically give like a recap on the conversation so that people can get real actionable value. Because I don't know about you, but when I tune into a podcast, I really like to gain something out of it. I like to actually have some action steps. And so that's what I wanted to ensure that my podcast was doing. I find that sometimes you get like a big guest on the show and they're super well known and they have this big name and it's like, oh yeah, this person's awesome. And then they come on the show and they just share the same thing that they always talk about every time that you've heard 10 bazillion times already. And I want to make sure that the information I'm sharing with my people just helps them get results, because like they're spending maybe an hour with me in their ears. And so I just want to deliver to them. So been making sure that I've been working on that, been connecting with as many people as possible to just, ensure that I'm delivering value and not always going for the most famous guest possible, but going for someone who's actually going to really, really deliver. So podcasting is awesome. I don't know. How do you guys like doing it? It's great, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can totally relate because our goal is to give as many actionable and practical things that people can take away from their podcast, so that they get at least one good chunk of information that not only they learn something, but then they can take it and take it into their fitness or their life or the area that they want. That's always been our big goal of us at Engineered Muscle.
And it's just about like action, right? So we named this podcast Engineered instead of Science something, because science can be a lot of theory, whereas engineering is actually like making something, taking action. It's like using the science and building something. And that's what excites us the most. And usually like in our podcast, we like to, whenever Madison gets, goes on a rant about something in fitness, I like getting it back. And he does the same. It's like, hey, like what is one thing our listener can take away right now?
The application is so important. Yeah. I also love what you guys are doing because I think that it's so needed. I think there's a massive gap in between the people who are really, really understanding and knowledgeable and evidence-based and everything, and then the people who are the gen pop, right? Like the general population. And so it's just funny that we've connected, because like you mentioned briefly that I started out in the fitness industry. That's exactly what I was doing with my people. And so I was primarily doing it, honestly, more so for women, I guess, who wanted to become stronger, both physically and mentally. And I actually started this hashtag, which is hashtag strength feed. It now has like almost 200,000 posts on it, which is so cool. But yeah, and then I brought out some like workout ebooks and stuff, and it was all very evidence-based, and I would make sure, that I was referencing everything and giving out the true information, because I hate all this BS. And it drives me crazy. Like, so you guys must get annoyed by it in the fitness industry in general. But something that I have found incredibly fascinating as I've pivoted to listening to more podcasts about entrepreneurship and tuning into content about entrepreneurship from literally the people who are at the very top of their game. Some of these people are billionaires. And you hear them say things like, oh, first thing I do in the morning is I drink apple cider vinegar shots, and then I don't eat anything for 16 hours because you need to fast and you can't eat any carbs. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this information is arguably worse in the world of entrepreneurship than what you read in literally like women's magazines. And so now I've just decided that I'm actually fully committed to like eradicating this. Any podcast that I listen to where I hear them talk about fitness BS. So a great example is there's a guy called Stephen Bartlett who owns his company's called Social Chain. Social Chain, and it's massive in the UK. They just opened up a new office in New York as well, and it's this huge company basically. And he has a podcast called Diary of a CEO, and he was talking about how he can't eat carbs. So I literally messaged him immediately on LinkedIn. We started chatting, whatever, blah blah blah. My boyfriend James is a nutritionist as well. He messaged him, and now James is going to do a talk at Social Chain's office about nutrition and health, because literally we heard him talk about this nonsense and we were like, no, we need to stop this information from spreading. So despite the fact that both myself and my boyfriend no longer work as fitness coaches, we instead educate fitness coaches on how to build an online business. It's still incredibly important to us that a good fitness information is being shared. And one of the biggest reasons why I pivoted my brand to helping people build a fitness coaching business online is because I know that if I can help those people help more people, then I'm helping even more people. So that was that.
God, you just, yeah. No, that was so spot on, and you spend a lot of time talking about that. Like you earlier mentioned, you used to follow Eric Helms, and so
I still do.
Madison is getting coached by 3DMJ right now for his company.
Oh, awesome! They were literally how I kind of got my real start in the world of evidence-based training and nutrition. And then I also used to work with another company which is no longer going anymore, but that we actually launched my very first ebook together. There's one guy called like Lawrence Judd, you may have heard, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he works closely with the guys from 3DMJ. And yeah, like I then became an affiliate for Mass. And so I've referred tons of people to those guys, because obviously there's no point me trying to build my own resource like Mass when they already have it. So yeah, I've referred like a lot of people to them, and
don't forget to share your affiliate link.
Huh?
Don't forget to share your affiliate link if you have it.
yeah.
Mass is the real deal. Mass is the real deal. I was actually just gonna buy it like this week.
Oh shit! No, sorry, I don't know if I can swap. Oh, sorry, but yeah, I can. I'll share it with you for sure. And here's the thing: it's kind of crazy that this came up, because one of my new like clients in my program, my new program that I just launched, she literally just shared on her story today. Like she shared, "Thank you so much, Lauren, for sharing Mass with me, because it's such good information." It's actually mad, like how this topic's come up. Because yeah, look, here we go. I know that people can't even see this because she shared that. Beautiful. But it's just like, it just shows how important it is to be educating yourself, and I think that's something that people kind of forget to do. They learn a bit of information and then they don't continually learn. And obviously, you know, listening to podcasts is great, but I think going above and beyond to make sure that you can constantly educate yourself is just so important, because then you can really master your craft and continually be better. So
I love it. I love it. I have like, there are two things you said that I want to just dive home. The first one, like the stuff where you said like really like billionaires or people who made enough money, them giving fitness advice. I think like there's nothing that grinds my gears more, because, and I see this a lot, like even when I was in college studying science, billionaires who made their money building a website on the internet, they would go on news channels and the news anchor would ask them about global warming, about evolution, or about like scientific topics. And I'm like, what qualifies you to even talk about that? And I think a lot of the time, people who achieve that status, people automatically think that they have everything else in order too. And it's just not true. And especially like the whole, dude, like right now, sometimes I watch stories or like I listen to podcasts and I'm like, some of these people have morning routines that can literally take you 6 hours.
oh my gosh, this is so funny. I swear you're like reading my mind, because I literally have yesterday I planned a video where I'm going to be creating a quote unquote morning routine, and it's going to be me basically taking the mic. Oh wait, you guys don't have that saying. It's going to be me like mocking the morning routine of entrepreneurs. So I'm going to call it, the title of the video will be something along the lines of like the success morning routine of the entrepreneur or something. And I'm going to make it like really dramatic. And yeah, and then basically like I've already planned it. I'm going to like wake up and then I'm going to be like doing a voiceover, and then I'm going to say to the camera, I'm going to be like, oh, and my videographer is just casually just sat there waiting for me to wake up all night. And then I'm going to like pretend that I go run down to the ocean to jump in the sea to go for a swim. Like, bro, but who does that? Seriously, I mean, I just don't believe that it's true. And if it is, yeah, I just don't know.
No, and it's just like, you know how like 20% of your actual efforts produce 80% of results, the 80-20 rule? And
yeah.
I think like there are a lot of this stuff that people talk about in entrepreneurship is the 80% that only produces 20% of results. And as beginner fitness coaches or people just getting into business, like they lack other skills. They lack the skills of sales. They lack the marketing skills. They lack the actual solid skills. And this stuff is just that little icing on the cake that helps you when you're already like making some money. But in the beginning, I'm all about building those skills. And I think that's what like you were talking about earlier, like building those skills. Because once you have the skills, man, like I always say, like once your ambition and your skills hug each other, that's when like abundance happens. That's when like shit just starts coming at you. Because you have actually like found the secret, because you're really good at what you do. You can deliver. On the other hand, you're ambitious and you got big goals and you're striving for more. But if you don't have the skills, then like, I mean, like sooner or later, your system will break. And that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, I think it's just the same thing in fitness and business. It's like people firstly, they overcomplicate everything. And here's the thing, right? I am one of these people, and that's why I know this to be true. And so I will never make a sweeping statement like that unless I know it to be true. And yeah, I mean, I overcomplicated everything. So a really good example is like I'd be going to the supermarket and I'd be like getting some oats, and I would literally I'm not even exaggerating. Like I would spend hours researching the most optimal oats for me to be consuming when I didn't even fully understand what a calorie deficit was. And so it's just all of these different things that I think is so important. It's just like how people on Instagram want to know how to use the best hashtags when their posts are utter rubbish. Like they're literally posting the worst content ever, and then they want to know the best hashtags. I'm like, honey, you are not going to grow on social media if you get better hashtags because your content sucks. And so it's really like it's just I think fitness and business, I'm so fortunate that I started out in the fitness industry because they're so similar. It's just now the fact of the matter is that a lot of fitness coaches, they love going to the gym, they love training, they love talking about nutrition and training, but they actually neglect business because they don't want to put the effort in there. And that's just the same thing. It's like, okay, your clients feel about fitness how you feel about business, and so then you can really have empathy for your clients. And so yeah, I just think that it's super important to realize that you got to always get the foundations nailed. It's like Eric Helms's muscle and strength pyramids, right? You got to get the bottom of the triangle nailed before you start moving up and focusing on things like meal timing and all that, because it's like it's just it's pointless otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
It's very true. Everyone's looking for that magic bullet. They're looking for that superfood. That if they eat acai, they're gonna lose a bunch of weight, etc. And so when you're working with someone and they're looking for that magic bullet, and you see that their content's lacking, how do you help them improve the quality of their content? And like, what does that mean to you? Like, what is quality content, and content that's going to attract people and cause people to interact and, really invest themselves in that person? How do you help people create that type of content?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the first thing, and I've just thought of an idea because I just mentioned the pyramids. So I'm going to write this down as I say it because I think it's going to make some good content for me. So just like we spoke about the pyramids in fitness, I think there's actually pyramids when it comes to business, right? So the very bottom of the pyramid, more than anything else, you need to know what your niche is. You need to know like who your ideal client is and what your niche is, because if you don't know what your niche is, then of course you can't choose the right platforms because you don't know who you're trying to target. Like it's like if you were doing on a, I don't know, you guys have guns in America, like let's say you were on a shooting range, like he's flexing his biceps. If you were shooting the guns, you can't aim for anything if you don't have a target to be shooting at, right? It's like if you don't know who your ideal client is, then you can't even post any content because you don't know who you're trying to help. And like I think so often people are like, yeah, well, I'm trying to help everyone who wants to get fit. But that's just not gonna do anything. That's meaningless. And so when you know who your ideal client is, you can tailor all of your content to that. And so I know, Mo, you always say like, we'll say you're the daddy of fat loss. Is that what you say?
I'm the daddy of fat loss. Yep.
Right. And like I just find that hilarious because it's like, okay, so if someone comes to your Instagram, they want to lose fat, like they're like, oh, this guy's the daddy of fat loss, like I better listen to him. And so I just found that really funny, and I just knew like the moment I saw that you have like a great personality. And then some people who are into like funny things like that and who also want to lose fat, they're going to connect with you because they're going to be like, this guy is hilarious. So there's that. So yeah, you need to know who your ideal client is. And then after that, you can start thinking, before you start making content, you need to think, okay, what platforms is my ideal client actually on? So are they on Instagram? Are they on YouTube? Are they listening to podcasts? So great example, let's just say they're a busy professional. Let's say that we spoke earlier about the CEO of that social chain company. He probably isn't scrolling Instagram all day because he's busy, right? He's probably, when he's in the car commuting, things like that, maybe he's listening to podcasts and he's maybe on LinkedIn as well. So in that case, you want to go where your audience is at and make sure that you're posting content on the platforms that he's at. So LinkedIn, podcast, that bish bash bosh. And then after that is when you can actually focus on the type of content. But you need to know your ideal client so well that you know what their day is like. So when they wake up in the morning, like how much time do they have? Do they only have 15 minutes? If so, then you want to make sure that your content is bite-sized so it's easy for them to consume and digest in a manner that's good for them. So 15 minutes, that means, okay, you could do a quick little podcast. Maybe you upload a couple of them per week instead of doing one big long one. When it comes to what are they trying to learn, like what are they trying to achieve, what are their problems, what are their goals, like you need to just make sure that your content adds value to them. So I kind of came up with this thing. I just call it the impact filter, and it's every single time you go post to social media, you need to ask yourself, what value is this adding to my target audience? And if it's not adding any value to your target audience, and when I say value, I mean education, entertainment, motivation or inspiration. If it's not adding one of those 4 things to them, then it's not good content for them. And so, yeah, I mean, just post the content that your ideal client would like to see. Do they want video? Do they want audio? Do they want to see a really pretty photo? Do they want to see selfies? Do they want to, like, what do they want to see? And so this is when it really just comes down to you knowing your ideal client super, super well. And then also, I think just like some basic things for content. Don't post like rubbish, blurry photos. Don't post like videos where there's a ton of background noise, because it's just not appealing and it's more likely to turn people off than actually have them come to you. So yeah, that's just a few things.
I love it. And the fact that you made a pyramid for that, that's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we can keep climbing up the pyramid if you'd like, but then that would come down to like what time to post on social media, like what hashtags to use, other random things. I can't even think like what people, I just see people worry about so much stuff that's just so irrelevant that even I don't focus on. So yeah.
Madison, you had a follow-up question?
Yeah, I mean, that would I think really informative and good, and I really like what you said there. And what would you do for someone who is struggling to get into the life of their ideal client, and like they have an idea on, and how do you help them flesh out what their ideal client is if they're struggling with it? Perhaps like maybe they have an idea, right? And they're like they know they roughly know what kind of person they want to work with, but they're still struggling to get into that day of the life of that person, and they think they know what they want, but maybe they don't. They don't know all their pain points, and they don't know all their daily struggles. How do you help a business person go through, figure out some of that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that so often people overcomplicate this. In fact, I know that they do, because I made a course about it and I've literally sold hundreds of places on this course. But here's the thing, right? I think the easiest thing and the easiest way to figure out who your ideal client is it's just you a few years ago. So maybe you lost weight in a really unhealthy way, and you got to a stage where you were having panic attacks every single day, and you couldn't even last a whole entire day in school or at work, and you knew that you needed to gain weight, but in a healthy way. So you then decided to gain weight in that healthy way. And the reason why I gave this example is because that was me, right? I lost weight in such an unhealthy way. I was having panic attacks every single day, couldn't last a full day at school. And then I needed to gain weight in that healthy way. So then I knew that there were tons of other people who had been through the same thing, losing weight in an unhealthy way and needed to become stronger, not just physically, but also mentally. And so my ideal client became me just a few years ago. And now, obviously, I then went on and built a successful online fitness coaching business. And so online fitness coaching changed my life, because I was someone who was just a fitness enthusiast, well, addict more so than enthusiast, but I was like always that fitness girl. And I then
you should feel at home here. That's good.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love it. And so like I then built this business, and so I'd like got my personal training qualifications. I was never an in-person PT. I went straight online. But I then realized, whoa, I'm like onto something here. Tons of people are asking me how I did it. So then I essentially became my ideal client became my former self, because I struggled so much when it came to building my online coaching business. I didn't have confidence in knowing that I was going to get my clients results, because I just would send them a plan, do check-ins. Like, I didn't know if what I was doing was the done thing, because I didn't know how other coaches did it. I'd only ever had one other online coach myself. And so with that said, when your ideal client is you just a few years ago, you can really have empathy. And then when it comes to creating sales copy, and when it comes to creating content, your copy, and everything else can really overcome the problems of that ideal client. So I think really that's the easiest way to do it.
I love it. Your ideal client is you a few years ago. I think that's That's literally it. Even like, yeah. And I think like, you know what's funny? When I started coaching, I went straight to online. I didn't do any in person. And
Mm.
I took on everybody. Like I needed the numbers. And I mean, at that time, I was just graduating college. So a lot of my friends who were engineers too, they got full-time jobs. So they were making money and they all needed help. And what happened was in the beginning, I attracted a lot of females. And
Mm.
I was not the most qualified person to help females, even though I knew the whole, like, I'd already been competing in men's physique. I knew the ins and outs of fitness, but the mindset side that the feminine needs, or like, I mean, it's just so different. It's so different working with like guys versus girls. And I realized that it takes so much of my energy to work with, females than it does to work with males. And
Mm.
with guys, right? If someone is not losing weight, I can, poke at their ego a little bit and
Yeah.
bring them back. Be like, hey man, let's get to work. What you doing over there? Let's do it. Right? Versus girls, it's a lot different. It's just different. People who are listening to this, especially personal trainers or coaches who coach both, they would know what I'm talking about. But it's like, so I realized like it's so much easier for me to work with guys, so much easier. And that's why like the whole daddy of fat loss, like that's the funny statement, and that's just who I was, because I'm a professional bro when it comes to fitness coaching, right? Like like my clients tell me about everything. Like you'll actually laugh, Lauren, but like on the sales call, sometimes when I'm enrolling clients, I love to ask a question, which is like, because guys come to me for six-pack abs, they're like, hey, like I want to get there in like 90 days. And I'll be like, okay, great. And a lot of the time, those guys are single. So these are single guys from 25 to 45. That's the age range. And they're successful in the eyes of society. But when they go to home, they don't feel successful. They still have that muffin top and they don't have that body they want. And one of the questions I love asking is like, how's like your dating life? Are you single or are you not single? And that their social life tells me so much more about them, even as a fitness coach, that I can, like, I am in my mind, I'm already building their program while asking that question. And I think like the reason is because I was there, not, a year or two ago. And when you can do that with your ideal client, I think like, and you know what I'm struggling with? This is kind of funny. Because on Muscle, we like to keep it real. So I'll say it. I'm like right now creating content for those guys. I'm not doing that. I need to like really get into that mindset every time I'm creating content.
Mm.
Now a lot of my content is very free flow. It's just like whatever I'm feeling, or if I learn something cool, I just post it. But you're so right. Like there's something to be said about deliberate, informative, value added content.
Yeah, for sure. I think I've noticed recently as well that you should do that type of content. Like you're doing it right now. We're talking about it here, but like, because I can imagine that your ideal clients for sure, even though they're coming to you for fat loss, but maybe some of them are also trying to build their own online business. So this could be helpful for them. But here's the thing, like I've definitely noticed recently that showing that personality is like also what people really want to see. I found recently my engagement was dropping massively on Instagram, and I actually found that was because I was constantly just posting like pure education rather than the inspiration and the motivation that actually people need. Like a lot of times that's what they need more so than the actual education. Like there's different types of people who are at different stages, of course, but yeah, so I mean, I think there's definitely a fine line now. Rather than every single 7 out of 7 posts per week being educational, I'm now making sure that maybe 3 of them are educational, 2 of them are just personal, just kind of short captions, which for me is so hard because I hate posting short captions, but I know that it's going to be like better in the long term. And then really making sure that the value that I'm sharing is coming actually on my secondary platform, so my YouTube, my podcast, because that's where people go to actually consume information. On Instagram, I've realized recently, that's just a short-term thing. Like people check their Instagram, have a little bit of a scroll, and then when they go to a podcast, they actually go to listen. When they go to YouTube, they actually go to watch. And so this has literally been something that I've been changing in the past week, like honestly, and already it's helped massively. And so it's definitely something that I would also pay attention to for anybody listening to this, because I think it'll be super helpful.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. That, you know, I think it's really hard to deliver effective education on Instagram because it's a very short.
People aren't there to learn. Like, they really aren't. They're just there to see what their friends are up to, see what their favorite influencers are doing. And yeah, I mean, it's been a big, it's hard for me because I personally, I kind of go there for information, but if I'm honest, like when I see big long captions, do I read them? I don't know. Do you guys read them?
No, I don't. To be honest,
I don't think I do either. I do sometimes if it really catches my attention, but I'm thinking like I don't really always read them. And so for years I've been spending, like, I'm not joking, every week I spend hours, probably spend about 10 hours a week, right? Like, I'm not exaggerating, writing captions and posting to Instagram. And it's probably not the best use of my time. So now I'm just trying to think about how I can use my time in a more efficient manner to really capture the lives and capture the attention and help the lives of more people, you know?
Mm-hmm.
No, I love that. And I read captions, but it's like if I see 10 really good posts, I'll probably read one, with the one that has the best hook that actually applies to me. So like, or it makes a post today that says how to make 10K this week or this month, I probably won't read it. But if she makes a post that says how to double your closing rate on sales calls next month or this month, I'll probably read it. Because right now
I'll send you my sales call script. Like, I'm serious. I'll send it to you.
Do it.
After this. It's
no,
sick.
like,
it's literally sick.
No, but it's just like the thing that applies to you at that moment, that's what you end up trying to read, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're so like the information is everywhere, and it just slows you down. So your brain is also filtering through information all day, and only wants to learn things that it actually applies to real life that it needs. So I think that was super valuable. By the way, like, how often do you do photo shoots? Because I know you have like some really good photos, and you keep them pretty up to date.
Yeah, so I really am a big fan of batching content. So it's not so much that I do photo shoots, it's that I rarely put on makeup. So you can see me right now. I honestly, it's actually this massive bottleneck for me and my content because, and it's something that I'm really trying to work on, but I actually hate putting on makeup. Like, it only takes me 10 minutes, but it's just this one thing. It's this mental block, and I'm very aware of it, which is good, but it doesn't make me do anything about it. So what I'll do is, like, in one day when I put on makeup, I make sure that it's on a rest day so that I can literally be making content from 6 a.m. all the way probably until about 7 p.m. So I'm going to be filming videos, I'm going to be taking photos, and it's not so much like how often do I do it. I take a lot of my photos when I'm on vacation, and I take a lot of them, let's say I go out on a day out to London, but really, like, properly actually taking a bunch of photos all in one go, probably like once or twice a month. But every now and then I'll also take like a few photos. So for example, last Saturday I went out like on a night out, and so I took, I think, like 5 different photos that day just because I had makeup on and all that. And so it just meant that, yeah. But it's funny because, like, it makes it sound like this makeup that I'm putting on is like this massive thing. It's not the makeup, it's more that, like, I normally just wear trackies and a random hoodie and my hair's like greasy and I spend 10 minutes putting on makeup. But yeah, so not too often. But just one thing that you spoke about then was like about how there's so much content and content isn't really what people need. That's the thing. I mean, people don't need more information, they need implementation. And I was actually listening to a podcast today earlier with James Clear, the guy from Atomic Habits, who wrote that book. And he said something and it just made a light bulb go off in my head. And I realized, like, at school, they don't actually teach us how to learn. Like, they teach us content, but they don't teach us how to learn. And so it actually just blew my mind for a moment because I was just like, that is so true. So I wrote this massive long caption and I'm going to post it today, but it's like super long, but I just feel the calling to post it. And so sometimes I'll kind of do stuff like off the cuff like that. Like normally I wouldn't post that today. Normally I would have posted being like, new YouTube videos up, because we're filming this on a Sunday and I post YouTube videos on a Sunday and Wednesday. But yeah, I mean, it just really kind of hit me and I was like, damn, that is powerful. And so now I'm fully committed to teaching people how to learn the content that I'm teaching them, because there's no point in them consuming it without them actually learning it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think very few schools kind of teach you how to learn. I think if you're lucky, you get a good teacher that'll kind of help teach you how to learn. And it's also difficult because different people learn different ways. Some people are much more visual. Some people are auditory. Some people have to physically go through it and have to do it. And so it's sometimes it's difficult to also teach your audience in that way too, because you have to be able to facilitate different types of learners. And some people, and it's a very valuable skill that we in this podcast been trying to teach people, is how to think so that you can understand principles. And because if you can understand principles, you can apply it to everything, or the subject. You'll be able to get to that point of mastery when you understand the principles. And that's how you know the difference between someone that knows their shit and someone that's intermediate and someone's at a beginner, is that the master speaks in terms of principles and doesn't say, this is how you do it. It's not just one way. It's understanding those underlying mechanics, those underlying principles. And that's how you can spot, once you understand that, that's how you can spot the masters and spot the guys on the top of their game, because that's how they talk. They talk in terms of the principles and those base layers.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I also think that that's been really interesting for me in business, because I found that when I teach frameworks, which pretty much is the same thing as principles, when you teach a framework and it's essentially a methodology, then it's sellable, right? And it gets results because it's essentially like a machine. And it's just been really fascinating to me to understand that, because then when I look at any successful business from the people who are like the A players, as you call it, they're all doing that. And I never noticed it before. And it's only been in the past few months that I've really noticed it, which is why I literally changed my entire business model. And my gosh, the results for not only myself, sales and income wise, but also the results of my clients has just drastically shifted. And I think it's being really, really aware and just being self-aware and understanding when maybe you're lacking is so valuable. And so I'm always going to be the first to put my hands up and say when I've like not made a mistake, but just learned, just like improved. And so, yeah, what you said about learning principles and applying principles is a game changer. And that's why I think, like we already mentioned earlier, just having that foundational knowledge is fundamental, because then you can build upon that. So yeah,
I love it. And like for you, can you give us an example of how you changed your, like when clients come to you, especially personal trainers who are intermediates or beginners to business, what are they looking for tactics and strategies, or are they like, when you actually teach them the frameworks or the principles, do they resist? Because they're like, Lauren, give me the tactics, give me the strategy.
yeah, it's a great question. So I'm dealing with two different types of clients. So there's the beginners who are maybe a personal trainer or a fitness enthusiast who just want to become an online coach for the very first time and start their business. So that business of mine, it's called Online Fitness Business School. And that literally teaches them how to start their online coaching business. And so that business is it's an online course really, and a program that guides them through setting up all the systems and all that. So that business is more so kind of running on autopilot. Like I teach the content with James, who's my partner and business partner. And then we have coaches in the program who all the clients, when they sign up, they get like one-on-one coaching calls with them. But that's one thing. And so I feel like now with your question, it's more relevant to the other side of my business, because that's where I'm kind of more hands-on and still doing coaching calls myself, because they're people who are really scaling to like that next level. And so it's just been really interesting because I've started teaching mindset at the beginning, because like a lot of them are mindset, productivity, health, fitness, wellness coaches. And so naturally they resist learning about mindset because they're like, no, like this is what I teach my clients. And I'm just like, mindset towards fitness is so different towards than mindset towards like business. And even though it's the same principles, it's applying them in a different way. And so I think that knowing principles is one thing, but then applying them is a whole different story, because you can apply your principles towards mindset, towards going to the gym and training and literally pushing yourself so hard in the gym. But then when it comes to building a business, it is just way different. You doubt yourself. You have imposter syndrome because it's not your zone of genius. And so I know you mentioned like how have you kind of changed things? And so basically the reason how I've changed it is like I was originally teaching more so content. I was teaching them like, this is how you do this, and this is the like if you follow this, you're going to get the outcome. Whereas now I've turned it into like a whole entire methodology. So for example, I call it S2S2S. Like, and so when people first hear that, they're like, ooh, they want to know what it is. So it sounds like appealing and interesting to them. So that's one thing. And it basically means service to system to scale, right? Because if you have a service, so for example, coaching, and you can turn it into a system, then that means you can scale. And so that is essentially a methodology I've come up with in order to take people through my program. And so making that pivot has been amazing for me because it really helps people understand like what's actually going on. And it's really just setting that expectation. And I think that that's really important when it comes to building an online business. You know, you need to set the expectations of your client, especially when it's a service-based business. So yeah, I mean, a few different things have changed, but I guess it's just like really knowing what people actually need, but packaging it up in a way that they want. Like they want to build a scalable business. Like that's why they come to me. But what they actually need is they need their mindset in check. They need to become more productive when it comes to business. They need to actually attend the calls, because if they don't show up, then they're not going to get the results. Obviously, they get the content as well, but they also need systems. And it's like these are things that they fail to neglect because they think they need clients, but really they don't need clients. If they had clients, then they're not going to be able to get their clients results, and they're quickly going to get to max capacity because they don't have a system that is there that will allow them to contain those clients and actually bring in like a load of clients. So yeah, I mean, it's really knowing your ideal client again. Like it's just back to knowing them. It's what it comes down to.
No, I love it. And I think like the big thing that popped out was tell them what they want, but give them what they need kind of thing.
Always, yeah.
Yeah, like that is just, and the last thing about business and fitness, for me, this is kind of funny. The people that I looked up to in fitness, people that I learned a lot from, the old school guys, or even like a lot of the science-based guys that I love and respect, they're not the greatest businessmen. And
especially not the science guys.
Especially not the science guys. And you know, that was like, I, as someone who loves reading autobiographies of like history figures and always learning and like having that analytical brain to check myself, realize that I need to take advice from certain people on certain things and not from everybody on everything.
Yeah.
I remember meeting one of my fitness role models. I will not name him, but he's a good friend. And he's like really up there. I mean, he's one of the best ones in nutrition and really science-based and just really up there. And I remember meeting him in person and we talked for like 45 minutes. And I asked him how much he was charging. And it was like literally pennies. And he had no systems. He literally was capping out, and just his impact was so minimal in proportion to what he could be having. And I was just like, at that moment, light bulbs went off. And I was like, he can teach me all about nutrition and fitness, and I love him, but this is not the guy to go for the kind of business that I want to create in fitness, because it's such a big gap. And it's weird. Like you would think that there wouldn't be, but there is a big gap, because when you are creating a business, because my goal is to transform like hundreds of lives. Like right now, the number that comes to mind is 200 men by the end of this year. And that's like a big goal. And I'll have to hire people, obviously. I'll have to like create those systems. But I was talking to that guy and he's like, really, he's been doing it for 15 years. And I was like, how many clients do you have? And he said like, I think 50 something. And I was like, for a name as big as yours, that is small. And he's like, yeah, I know I can help more people. I just don't want to hire other people and blah, blah, blah. But it was just like, I realized, and maybe that's what he wants, but I realized that my skill in fitness can be top notch. But if I'm not building the system that creates sustainable results for people, because here's another thing, Lauren, you'll probably like this. Like, I used to think that my clients, my ideal clients, get results because I spend so much one-on-one time with them. Turns out my best guys were getting results because they were so well positioned. I gave them the information. I gave them the strategy. They started executing. Results were coming in without me spending so much time with them. My ideal guys, they have never had the system before. They've never had the actual step-by-step strategy before, and now they do, and they're killing it. And it was actually when I was doing my market research, I talked to one of my clients who was getting amazing results. And I was like, Zach, like, is it the time that you spend with me that actually is giving you results? And he's like, bro, when was the last time you talked? It's been a minute. Because he wouldn't book a call because he's running 2 businesses. He's busy. And he was getting great results. And he's like, it's not time I spend with you. You gave me a system that I was craving, and the system just works, and now I'm good. And that was the big aha moment for me where I was like, it's not the time, it's not the minutes, the hours I spend with them. It's if you are in the best position in life to actually get help by my system, and then you give them the system and boom, it's game on for them.
Yeah, it's exactly it. And you'll often find that the clients who pay the least take you the most amount of time. Like, they're the most pain in the ass client. So yeah, I mean, it's just mad. I think just when it comes to the whole world of like being an expert is relative. Like, for sure, it sounds like a brain operate what's it called? Brain operations. A brain surgeon. There we go. A brain surgeon sounds like they are the expert, right? But like, if you were trying to build a business, like, you wouldn't go to a brain surgeon. You would go more likely to actually let's just say the brain surgeon PA, because she knows. Terrible example, but you get what I mean. So it's all relative, and it's really important for people to bear in mind.
I love it. Madison, do you have any questions?
Madison went on mute.
I muted him because there was a lot of noise coming from his end. But Madison, can you hear us?
No, sorry, I lost audio. Someone was trying to call me. Sorry.
No, you're good. That's why I muted you. But yeah, no, Madison, do you have any questions? That's what I was asking.
No, because I missed what you were saying. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. So one of the last things I want to ask you, Lauren, is Instagram growth. For you, how did you grow your Instagram to be like, I think it's 130,000 followers now, and you get like really good engagement too. So for you, is it all about the content, or did you like, have you had your Instagram account for a minute to just trial and error over time, or tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I've literally had it for ages. So it started out when I was either 16 or 17. So I'm 22 now. And it started out as like me just documenting my journey because I wanted to connect with other people who are trying to get into their fitness, like other girls. And yeah, so I've been doing it for a while, honestly, just sharing value. Like, there's so many nuances to it, and we'd be talking all day if we were to go into it now. But I think it's just like being consistent and adding value. That's where I'm going to leave it. Not worrying about all the small and new details, just like sharing value. Don't get a bot, like that doesn't work. You need to actually engage authentically. Like, you need to show up. I DM so many people per day. I comment on so many people's posts every single day, even still to this day. And people don't believe that it's me. And like, then when someone's in my DMs, I'll send them like a video or a voice note or something. And they're like, oh my God, it is really you. I thought it was your team. And I'm like, yes, of course it's me. Firstly, I would never trust anyone with my Instagram password. But secondly, like, I'm not going to do that. So yeah, you just got to show up. You got to add value, and I'm just gonna leave it there because yeah, again, we'll be talking.
No, I love it, and I saw that you have that blue check mark, so that means you're a deal.
I did a YouTube video on like how I got verified, and it's got so many views now, like thousands and thousands, which is hilarious. But yeah.
I love it. I love it. And like, how do you connect with some of the biggest names in the industry? Like, how do you think like we can get those people on our podcast? And
You gotta lead with value, you know? You gotta say, let's say you were gonna DM, I don't know, wrong. Yeah, you DM Ed Milet, be like, hey Ed, I absolutely loved episode 34 of your podcast. There was this one particular line that you mentioned about blah, 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 blah. It really, really helped me. And since then, I have implemented it and I've achieved X, Y, and Z, or X, Y, and Z. And then...
Stop right there. That's hilarious.
And then got to translate, and then just be like, if there's ever anything that I can do to add value to you, then like just let me know. By the way, I have this podcast, we talk about this, this, and this, and here's how it can help you. Like, you need to make it clear to them how it's going to benefit them, because realistically, like, people are busy, they want to know how it's going to help them. So like, I know that when I come on this podcast, like, I get to connect with you guys, I get to be put in front of your audience. Like, I mean, a lot of people are going to say no to a podcast if they know that it's getting like 10 downloads per month. So yeah, it's just making it clear, like, the value that they're going to get in return, and following up, like, make sure to follow up. And then, for example, like, when you get guests on, ask them if they can shout out the podcast episode, because then that's going to help you grow. And then, like, what you can do is, once you've had like a few good guests on, you can use that as leverage to get more guests on. So like, when I had Ed Milet, then when I go contact like Grant Cardone, who I'm gonna try get on the show, I'm gonna say like, oh, by the way, I've had your wife on my show, I'd love to have you on. I've had Ed Milet on the show and all that stuff. And so then once I've had Grant Cardone on, then I'm gonna like contact Gary V. I'll be like, Gary, I've had Grant on the show, you know, like, kind of works like that. It's like a domino effect. So yeah, that's what I recommend. And just don't be afraid to ask.
I love it. No, and I think like, dude, that's why I love living in LA, because it's all about association. It's all about association. It's like I'm not sponsored by any big brand right now, but the other day we were at Arnold Classic and in Columbus, Ohio, and I walked in with some of my friends who are influencers, and literally they were getting treated as VIPs, so I got treated as a VIP too. And it was just like, boom, that's association. And then like, it just comes down to your own brand, right? Like, are you building your own brand as well? Do you have your own thing going as well? Because no one wants to be associated with someone who's got nothing going for them. And it's just, like, that's been the biggest one. But last thing I'll ask you is, what message do you have for our audience, especially personal trainers or like anybody who wants to break into the next level of their life? Anyone who wants to up level? Because a lot of people who listen to us, this is kind of funny. A lot of people who listen to our podcast, they're not just trying to build more muscle. They're trying to like get better at life. They're trying to get better at what they already do. And in your case, you're 22, you're running 2 businesses, like, you're a fucking rock star. So what advice do you have for a 23-year-old kid listening to this podcast, who listened to this whole episode? What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, well, they've made it this far to the end, so congrats. But I really think it just comes down to knowing why you're doing what you're doing. Like, what impact do you want to make? And when you know your reason why, then it becomes really, really clear. So, for example, like, I don't know why you guys do what you do, but I know for me at this current moment in time, the reason why I like to help people build an online business is because I have worked a corporate job that I hated. Like, I can't even tell you how unhappy I was. I lost my energy. I lost myself. My parents told me, like, you're not the Lauren that we used to know. Like, and I was 18, 19 when I was doing that. And then I went to university. It wasn't for me. I always felt like I was just kind of different to everyone. And I hated feeling that way. And so I know that there are other people who are kind of entrepreneurial in nature who feel that way too. And so I want to facilitate them building their own businesses, and so that they can actually feel like they're making a difference in the world. Because I mean, that's why I do it. Like, it's really fulfilling to me to know that I'm helping people help people. And so it's just really, really cool. And also, like, for me as well, it's more than just that, because my brother's disabled, right? And so he has epilepsy, autism, like various other disabilities. And so I've seen what it's like to not be able to live your life to the fullest. And so I want to go out there every single day, actually doing things, actually making things happen, actually changing lives. Because I can see, like, it was his 20th birthday like 3 days ago, which is crazy because his mental age is like 3 or 4 years old. And I can see what it's like to be someone who can't make the most of your life. And so I know that it's literally like my duty to make the most of my life, because there are people out there who can't. So I think that's really, really important.
That's beautiful. Well said. Well said. Well, guys, how can they follow you? Give them the social media and all the places.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, you're listening to a podcast, so you might like my podcast, which is called Impact School. So go subscribe to that right now. And then I also, if you are a fitness coach trying to build an online fitness coaching business, I actually can give you the link, but there's a free workshop that they can watch. It's just onlinefitnessbusinessschool.com/workshop. And obviously there's the podcast Business Meets Fitness, but just hit me up on Instagram at Lauren Tickner. It's just my name. It'd be awesome if they could like say that they came from this podcast, so that, yeah, whatever, like, or they can share this on their story, tag us all. That'd be even better, right? So yeah, that's me. I'm on YouTube. Well, I'm basically everywhere. Just type in my name and I'm sure you'll find me on most platforms, apart from like, I don't do Twitch or that because I don't really understand that thing.
I've never been. Yeah, I've tried getting on Twitter and then I would just forget to.
Oh no, I'm on Twitter, but not Twitch. My Twitter account actually just got banned because I made it when I was 12, and you had to be 13 to make an account. And this is 10 years ago, by the way, and they've just banned my account. And so I literally, cause that happened, I contacted the VP of Twitter and invited him on my podcast. We did a podcast together, and even he can't get my account back. So basically it's because of all these like legislation going on in the UK. It's called GDPR. I don't know, you might have heard of it. And apparently it's going to be back by the end of next month. So maybe, but anyway.
There we go. Hey, Lauren, it was great having you. And guys, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, leave comments, let us know who else would you guys want us to have on. We always love having guests like Lauren. And to be honest with you, I didn't even know a lot about your background in fitness. So this was just great. And evidence-based science, like we just clicked really well. So this was great. Guys, I'm Mo Gaius on Instagram, Madison Malpa. You guys already know where to find us. And don't forget to leave some feedback. Peace.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. Thank you for joining, Lauren.